Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
What a difference a week can make in the National Football League. It's a lesson that's not unfamiliar to the New Orleans Saints, but it's one that they learned once again, and it's a real hard lesson to keep learning over and over and over again. But they keep doing it's the SpongeBob meme, right? How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? At least one more time if you're the New Orleans Saints. So think back. I mean, we won't spend a bunch of time on this because it's just not worth really going that far back. You kind of know what happened. We all saw it. But think back to this time last week, right? It's the eve of a game. Saints are going to face the Rams Thursday Night Football on the road. Saints are 7-7. They're right there in the division. They control their own destiny. And even beyond that, the Saints actually had a chance at a wild card spot without winning the division. At this time last week, that was mathematically possible. I don't want to say realistic, but it was, you could see the path. That's how awful the NFC is, by the way. Everybody focuses in on the NFC South, and rightfully so. It's garbage, but the NFC as a whole is terrible. Like, y'all, the Eagles looked unbeatable last year at times. This year, they kind of kept skirting through, winning. Then they hit their losing streak, and they look human. The San Francisco 49ers just had a 5-interception day on offense on Monday night and got destroyed on their home field by the AFC's number 1 seed in what many people thought could be a Super Bowl preview. I'm not sitting here and tell you that the Niners are a awful football team. They're at the top of the NFC with the Eagles, but I mean, are you really as scared of San Francisco as you were a few weeks ago if you're in the NFL looking towards the playoffs? Maybe not. The Lions have been a fun story, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later on in our NFL takeaways. But, I mean, Dallas has been great at home. They haven't been good on the road. The Bucs have won 4 games in a row. More on them later. They're not great. The Seahawks aren't great. The Vikings don't have their starting quarterback. You get the bit. The NFC is not good. It's very bad. The fact that a team that was 7-7 legitimately had a shot to be a wild card team if they could have taken care of business. But, of course, the Saints didn't take care of business. They dug a 30-7 hole on the road in L.A., facing a team that's playing really good football. And you saw what we all thought, that the game against Carolina and, and New York and Tommy DeVito, it was a mirage. And now when you look at the New Orleans Saints, it's real simple when it comes to their playoff hopes. You don't control your own destiny. You have to win this week, and you have to win the division. To win the division, you need to win your final 2 games, one on the road against Tampa Sunday, and then at home against Atlanta. Both of those teams, by the way, already beat you and did so rather convincingly. I know the score against Atlanta is a little closer, but the way they demoralized you in the second half, that wasn't close. And if you do that, you need a lot of help. Namely, the Buccaneers to go on the road and lose at Carolina. Which, look, Carolina, they're not great. They're bad. But it's the NFL. They just beat Atlanta. And they just lost their last game by 3 points and put up 30 points in that game. Anything's possible. It's just not likely. So, what is likely? Honestly, that the Saints, who over at DraftKings right now, mind you, are plus 400 to make the playoffs and like plus 650 to win the NFC South, just to show that it's not likely. What is they'll probably go to Tampa this weekend, lose, and they'll be officially eliminated from playoff contention, and we can actually have serious conversations and not hypothetical conversations about the future of this franchise. What a difference a week makes, sure. But in the same vein, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And when I look at this game against Tampa, I just have bad feelings everywhere. A lot of it stems from the first time you met them in week 4. And the other half of it stems from the fact that this is a really similar spot that you were in last week going up against the Rams. Not a short week. That's fine. You've got that little mini bye in there, right? But just like you had to go on the road and face LA, who was playing their best football at that time, you have to go on the road and face Tampa Bay, who is playing their best football right now as we speak. They've won 4 games in a row. The defense looks like it has returned to form. Devin White is back healthy in the middle. Antoine Winfield had a very nice game last time, and they were facing the Jaguars, mind you, who I know they've kind of hit the skids as well. But for the first half of the season, that was a team that was thought to be a lock for a top 4 seed in the AFC. 30-12. And then, oh, by the way, there's Baker Mayfield, who is going to set a career high in touchdown passes this year and is doing all of it on a prove-it deal and has really stabilized that offense in Tampa Bay. That's the team you have to go play. Very similar to what you walked into Thursday night. And then there's the first meeting against them. Y'all remember the first meeting against them? And this is where the more things change, the more they stay the same. Boy, the writing was on the wall. I went back and looked at a few things from that game earlier today. And the writing was on the wall after that one. If you don't remember, let me jog your memory a little bit. Maybe you've tried to block out most things New Orleans Saints this year, and who could blame you? That was the game the Saints were coming off of blowing the 18-0 lead to Green Bay, which would have had them at 3-0, by the way, but instead they're 2-1, and Derek Carr was coming off the sprained AC joint. Very limited in practice. Didn't know if he was going to play. Suits up on that Sunday, and the Saints offense is just anemic. And I'm not putting it all on Derek Carr's shoulder injury. It definitely wasn't all on that. He just didn't play very well. He hasn't played very well for the majority of the year. The Saints offense hasn't played very well for the majority of the year, unless they're down about 2-3 scores. But that's where you were in that game. The difference is there was still a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hope. It was, all right, can you bounce back? That was an ugly loss you had against Green Bay, and you should be 3-0, but you're coming home to play the Buccaneers. Can you bounce back? And your defense was playing well at that point. And you had a 3-0 lead after one quarter, and then it all just went to hell in a handbasket after that. And you ended up losing 26-9. Right at the close to the half, Baker Mayfield throws a bad interception in the red zone at the goal line, and that's when the Saints handed the ball off to Adam Prentice, and he fumbled and gave it right back to him, and Tampa punches it in and makes it 14-6 at the half instead of 14-3 at the half instead of 7. You had Derek Carr underthrow Chris Olave late when they're moving the ball a couple different times. You really saw the chinks in the armor for the first time, in my opinion, that day in the Dome against Tampa Bay. And in the same vein, you looked at Tampa Bay and said, that's a 3-1 team now going into their bye. Baker's playing well. Is there something there? And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Turns out the Saints were wildly inconsistent, very bad on offense. Then the defense started getting off to their slow starts, and you were just stuck in that same one step forward, 2 step backs. You win a game here, you lose 2 there. You win 2 here, you lose 3 there. That type of pattern that the Saints have been in ever since Dennis Allen was hired as the head coach. And to an extent, the last year or so of Sean Payton. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And it turns out that's who you were. And yeah, Tampa did have something working then. They're 8-7. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're some juggernaut, but they're playing closer to the team they were in week 4 when they beat you by double digits on your home field than anything right now with their 4-game winning streak. And you have to go walk into that with your playoff hopes hanging by a thread. I don't have high hopes for Sunday at Raymond James. And if the Saints lose, and they'll miss the playoffs for a second year in a row, and they'll be staring 7-10, 8-9, depending on what happens in the face, that should be the end of the Dennis Allen era. There's no reason to continue. You make the change then. And then we get to have really, really in-depth and thoughtful conversations about the direction of this franchise and where they want it to go. I could sit and tell you that Ms. Gale should make front office changes too if they miss the playoffs yet again. Don't know if that's going to happen. But one thing's for sure, there has to be a change at the top. And they missed the playoffs again. I think that there will be. And I think that they're going to miss the playoffs because I like Tampa, and I like Tampa big this weekend against New Orleans. We'll see if they have some pride and if they want to stand up and fight for it. But these are two teams just heading in completely opposite directions, and Tampa's playing their best football. And I saw what that looked like on Thursday night against the Los Angeles Rams, and I think you could be in for a repeat of that on Sunday.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.